There's a bridge in China where, if you dropped a ball from the deck, it would fall freely for nearly 11 seconds before hitting the bottom of the canyon. That's enough time to count from 1 to 10. And that's just one of 15 structures we're exploring today. Over the past 2 decades, China has built a string of projects that, if you'd brought their blueprints to any engineer 30 years ago, the answer would almost certainly have been, that can't be done. A bridge spanning a deep canyon with no support points. An island rising up in the middle of the open sea. A rail line for trains that never touch the ground. A building that twists itself to outsmart the wind. But all of them have become reality. And now, let's begin with the first structure. This is a bridge where, standing on it, you sometimes can't see the bottom of the canyon at all. Only a sea of white clouds drifting past beneath your feet. Huajiang Grand Canyon Bridge is located in Guizhou Province, China, spanning the Huajiang Canyon over 600 meters deep. Before this bridge existed, to get from one side of the canyon to the other, people had to take a mountain route that took hours, even though the straight line distance was only a few hundred meters. But building a bridge here was nothing like building an ordinary bridge. The first problem was the terrain. The canyon is so deep and sheer that there was no way to bring heavy machinery directly down to the canyon floor to build support piers. Engineers had no choice but to build a temporary cable system to transport materials and equipment across the void, instead of by road like normal construction sites. The second problem was wind. The higher up you go, the stronger and more unpredictable the wind becomes within the canyon, strong enough to shake the entire cable system suspended in mid-air during construction. The engineering team had to calculate every stage of installation to keep the structure stable, even while it was still incomplete, a problem you won't find in any standard bridge building textbook. To picture the height of this bridge, imagine stacking nearly 2 Eiffel Towers on top of each other, and it still wouldn't reach the deck. Thanks to this structure, a journey that once took hours around the mountain now takes just a few minutes. But if you think this is already the tallest bridge in China, you haven't seen the next one yet. This is the tallest bridge in the world. If you place the Empire State Building at the bottom of this canyon, its peak would still fall short of the bridge deck by a small margin. Beipanjiang Bridge, also known as Duge Bridge, connects Guizhou and Yunnan provinces, spanning the Beipanjiang River at a height of 565 meters. Before this bridge existed, traveling between the two provinces meant winding mountain roads that took about a full day. Building at a height of nearly 600 meters, it was almost impossible to bring heavy machinery down to the canyon floor. All the materials, steel, concrete, equipment, had to be transported by a cable system running across the canyon, connecting the two sides of the cliff directly. An equally tough challenge was controlling the wind. The higher up you go, the stronger and more erratic it becomes, capable of shaking the entire cable system suspended in the air during construction. Engineers had to monitor real-time wind data to choose the exact safe moment for each stage of assembly. At 565 meters, this bridge stands taller than the Empire State Building, a structure that once held the title of the world's tallest building for nearly 40 years. Thanks to this bridge, a journey that once took a full day has now been cut down to just a few minutes. From conquering deep canyons on land, the Chinese took an even bolder step, creating an entirely new stretch of land in the middle of the open sea. This is not a natural island. The entire stretch of land you're looking at, with its towers, canals, and beaches, simply didn't exist less than a decade ago. It was created entirely from scratch by human hands in the middle of the open sea. Ocean Flower Island lies off the coast of Hainan Province, China, considered the largest artificial archipelago in the world today. The entire area was built up with sand and rock directly on the seabed, forming 3 connected islands shaped like flower petals when viewed from above. Building an island from nothing in the middle of the sea is far more than just dumping sand into the water. Ocean currents and waves constantly batter the newly reclaimed land, so engineers had to build breakwaters and reinforce the foundation with rock fill before adding the sand to keep the island from washing back into the sea. At the same time, the entire project had to protect the natural coral reefs near the construction site, while also being designed to withstand sea storms and earthquakes, despite standing on entirely man-made ground. In scale, Ocean Flower Island is even considered larger than the famous Palm Jumeirah in Dubai, previously the world's best-known land reclamation project. On this island today sits an entire miniature city complete with hotels, an amusement park, and residential areas, all standing on ground that was once the seabed. If humans can create a whole new stretch of land in the middle of the sea, the next structure turns its lens in a completely different direction, straight up into the universe. This is Earth's most sensitive ear, a giant dish set perfectly into a natural depression in the mountains, dedicated to listening for signals from galaxies billions of light years away. FAST is the largest spherical radio telescope in the world, located in Guizhou province, with a diameter of up to 500 meters. Engineers searched across all of China to find a natural karst depression whose shape and size came closest to matching the design, saving on the enormous excavation costs that would have been needed on flat ground. The hardest problem wasn't the scale, but the precision. The entire reflective surface, as wide as 30 football fields, had to achieve an accuracy of just a few millimeters. Otherwise, the cosmic signals it captured would come out distorted. To achieve that, engineers used thousands of cables underneath to continuously adjust the shape of the dish for each observation angle, turning it into a giant mirror that can reshape itself in real time. With its outstanding sensitivity, FAST has replaced Arecibo. Once the world's largest telescope, located in Puerto Rico, before it collapsed, to become humanity's most important ear listening out into the universe. From listening to the cosmos, let's return to the ground, to a structure that connects 3 territories, using both a floating bridge and an undersea tunnel. This is a 55-kilometer bridge crossing the sea, but its hardest section doesn't sit on the water at all. It plunges straight down to the seabed. This bridge connects 3 territories, Hong Kong, Zhuhai, and Macao, crossing one of the busiest stretches of ocean in the world. Because this is an international shipping route with thousands of large vessels passing through every day, the middle section of the bridge couldn't be built above water. It had to become an undersea tunnel instead. This nearly 7-kilometer submerged tunnel was assembled from dozens of massive tunnel segments, each weighing tens of thousands of tons, precast on shore, then towed out to sea and sunk into their exact positions on the seabed, with a margin of error of just a few centimeters. The entire structure also had to be engineered to withstand earthquakes, major storms, and seawater corrosion over 120 years of operation. Thanks to this bridge, the journey from Hong Kong to Qinghai, once a roughly 4-hour ferry ride, now takes about 30 minutes by car. From a structure that connects 3 cities by road, let's move on to a place that welcomes tens of millions of people by air every year. This is an airport terminal shaped like a giant starfish, so large that its shape is clearly visible from outer space. Beijing Daxing International Airport sits south of the capital, designed by architect Zaha Hadid, and stands as one of the largest airports in the world today. The goal of the design was to turn a massive terminal into a place where passengers could still move quickly instead of getting lost in a maze of corridors. The first challenge was structural. The enormous dome roof had to be supported with almost no columns in the middle, so as not to block sightlines or the flow of movement inside. The second challenge was distance. With 5 wings radiating out from the center, engineers designed the layout so that from the security checkpoint, passengers would never have to walk more than 8 minutes to reach any boarding gate, no matter how vast the terminal. With a design capacity to serve tens of millions of passengers a year, Daxing ranks among the busiest airports in the world, yet still manages to feel open and uncrowded thanks to its distinctive starfish design. From a structure that overwhelms people with its sheer size, the next one will make people afraid to take another step because of just how transparent it is. Imagine walking across a thin sheet of glass with nothing but a 300-meter drop beneath your feet and nothing shielding you at all. The Zhangjiajie glass bridge sits within the national park of the same name. connecting two limestone peaks with a walkway that's completely transparent. It's considered the world's tallest and longest glass pedestrian bridge. The biggest challenge was the material. The deck had to be made of multi-layered tempered glass, strong enough to bear the weight of hundreds of people standing on it at once, while still maintaining absolute transparency. Before opening to the public, engineers carried out extreme tests, including smashing sledgehammers directly onto the glass surface on live television to prove its safety to the public. The deck is designed to withstand a load many times greater than the maximum number of people allowed to stand on it at once. A safety margin large enough to reassure even the most nervous visitors afraid of heights. If walking on glass already had you on edge, the next structure will take you straight up, along a cliff face hundreds of meters tall. This is the tallest outdoor elevator in the world, mounted straight onto a sheer cliff face as if someone had simply glued it to the mountain. The Bailong Elevator is located within the Zhangjiajie scenic area, carrying visitors from the base of the mountain to the summit in just about 2 minutes, instead of hours of hiking along mountain trails. Before this elevator existed, reaching the summit was really only possible for those with the health and time to spare. The biggest challenge was drilling and anchoring the entire elevator shaft into the natural granite cliff without compromising the structural integrity of the mountain itself. Even a small mistake during drilling could crack the rock face. On top of that, the operating system had to guarantee absolute safety despite strong mountain winds and constantly shifting weather at such a great height. A journey that once took about 4 to 5 hours of climbing is now compressed into roughly 2 minutes by elevator. From conquering a natural cliff face, let's move on to a structure where humans themselves defy the ordinary rules of structural design. This is a building that, seen from a distance, makes you wonder, how does it not collapse when there are enormous voids cutting straight through its middle? Morpheus Hotel is located in Macao, designed by architect Zaha Hadid, striking for its shape like a block of stone hollowed out in multiple places. It's one of the first structures in the world to apply an exoskeleton load-bearing system to a high-rise building on such a large scale. Instead of relying on an internal column framework like ordinary buildings, the entire weight of Morpheus is carried by an interwoven steel shell on the exterior, forming a kind of external skeleton for the structure. This approach allows for large open voids cutting through the building's body, but it also demands extraordinary complex structural calculations to ensure stability despite the absence of a traditional load-bearing frame on the inside. The entire outer steel shell is assembled from thousands of metal panels, each with a different shape, requiring near-perfect fabrication precision, so every piece fits exactly into its designed position. From a structure that challenges the rules of engineering right in the heart of a city, let's board a train that runs through the highest land in China. This is the highest railway in the world, where some passengers must breathe supplemental oxygen right on the train. Because the altitude is so extreme that the air becomes far thinner than normal. This railway connects Qinghai province with Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, crossing the Qinghai-Tibet plateau at an elevation of over 5,000 meters above sea level. This was once an area almost impossible to reach by rail, because the ground beneath it is a layer of permafrost. The biggest challenge lay in that very ground. If heat from the rail line transferred downward and melted the ice, the roadbed would sink and warp over time. To solve this, engineers installed thousands of special heat-conducting pipes along the roadbed, acting like a natural cooling system to keep the ground below permanently frozen year-round. The highest point of this railway surpasses the elevation of many of the world's most famous mountain peaks, making it the railway that comes closest to touching the clouds on the planet. From a structure that conquers extreme altitude, let's move on to one that conquers form itself, a place where not a single right angle exists. These are three structures that look as though they were sculpted from clay, rather than built from concrete and steel. Not a single right angle exists anywhere in this entire complex. The Meixihu International Culture and Art Center sits beside a lake in Changsha, Hunan Province, designed by Zaha Hadid and inspired by the shape of lotus flowers and the flow of water. The complex consists of three structures: a grand theater, an art museum, and a multi-purpose performance center. The biggest challenge was constructing surfaces that curve continuously in all three dimensions, with not a single flat section to simplify the installation process. To achieve this, the design team had to use digital modeling technology to calculate and cut every metal panel into its own distinct shape, with almost no two panels alike across the entire structure. Tens of thousands of metal panels, each with its own unique shape, were assembled together to form seamless curves, like a giant sculpture. From a structure that stands still yet appears as soft and fluid, as if it were moving, let's move on to something that's truly in motion, yet never touches the ground. This train never touches the rail at all. It floats just above it, a few centimeters off the surface, hurtling forward at speeds of over 430 kilometers per hour. The Shanghai Maglev is the world's first and fastest commercial maglev line, connecting the city center with Pudong International Airport. It's a technology entirely different from ordinary trains. No wheels, no friction with the track whatsoever. The secret lies in electromagnets installed along the entire length of the track, generating a magnetic force that both lifts the train off the ground and propels it forward with no need for a conventional engine. The biggest challenge is controlling that magnetic field with extreme precision. Even a slight deviation could throw the train off course, especially dangerous at such high speeds. At this speed, the roughly 30-kilometer stretch from the city center to the airport takes just about 8 minutes, far faster than driving the same distance by car. From speed at ground level, let's look up to the sky, where one tower twists itself to outmaneuver the force of the wind. This tower twists 120 degrees from base to summit, but that's not for the sake of aesthetics. It's a trick to outsmart the wind. The Shanghai Tower stands in the Huajiang Financial District, the world's second tallest building, rising alongside 2 other iconic structures in the city. With its towering height, the tower had to contend with an invisible but extremely dangerous enemy: wind force at great altitude. If a building this tall were built with an ordinary straight body, wind pressure concentrated on one large flat surface could cause dangerous swaying. The solution was to twist the building's form 120 degrees along its height, a design that continuously breaks up the wind flow instead of letting it slam directly into one point, significantly reducing the wind load on the entire structure. Thanks to this unique twisting shape, the tower cuts wind load by roughly 1/4 compared to a straight building of the same height, a substantial figure for a super tall structure. From a structure that reaches skyward to conquer the heavens, let's step into a space designed to conquer the eyes of anyone who walks in. Step inside this library, and the first thing you see isn't books. It's a giant eye staring back at you, formed entirely out of bookshelves. Tianjin Binhai Library is located in the Binhai district of Tianjin and quickly became one of the most shared structures on social media thanks to its striking interior design. At the center of the library sits a large sphere of light, surrounded by tiers of bookshelves that curve continuously from floor to ceiling. The challenge lay in turning these architectural curves into structures that were both load-bearing and genuinely functional, not just decorative. Every curved tier of shelving had to be calculated as part of the load-bearing steel framework, strong enough to support the weight of books and foot traffic, while still preserving the smooth, seamless curve true to the original design concept. The building has capacity for hundreds of thousands of books, but most visitors who come here are really just here to take photos, since many of the shelves are actually purely visual decoration. From a quiet space of knowledge, let's close today's journey with a structure that never stops moving, a place with almost no human presence at all. This is one of the largest seaports in the world, but look closely and you'll notice something strange. There's almost no sign of any workers here at all. Yangshan Deep Water Port sits on an island off the coast of Shanghai, connected to the mainland by a 32-kilometer sea-crossing bridge. It's the world's first and largest fully automated container port, where the entire cargo handling process is run by machines instead of people. The biggest challenge was synchronizing thousands of pieces of equipment, from cranes to autonomous vehicles to loading systems, so they work together seamlessly 24 hours a day, with no direct human operation needed. The entire system had to be programmed to automatically calculate the position, route, and timing for every single container, avoiding collisions even while operating at high density and high speed. With the capacity to process tens of millions of containers a year, Yangshan ranks among the busiest ports in the world, running almost entirely without any lighting for workers, simply because there's no one working directly on the docks. And that's the final structure in today's journey, closing out our list of 15 engineering marvels from China. From a bridge taller than the Empire State Building to an island created from nothing in the middle of the sea, to a giant telescope capable of listening to the entire universe, the 15 structures we've just explored all share one thing in common. They were all once ideas that many people considered impossible. But through engineering, persistence, and sometimes solutions with no precedent whatsoever, all of them became reality. Out of these 15 structures, which one surprised you the most? Was it the glass bridge that left you afraid to take another step, or the hotel that seems to break every rule of structural design? Leave a comment below and let me know. If you enjoyed this journey through some of the world's most cutting-edge engineering feats, don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss the next video. And if you're curious whether any other country in the world has structures just as crazy, stay tuned for my next video. See you then.